absolute travesty that of an NBA game, Saturday primetime game that I saw yesterday, where the Houston Rockets blew an 18-point deficit to the New York Knicks as they lost 108 to 106 in the final 5 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. The Knicks went on a 33 to 15 run, and they was able to pretty much close the gap and close the deficit. The biggest story for the New York Knicks gonna mention is, of course, Karl Anthony Towns, Cat, Jalen Brunson, and of course OG Anunoby. Jalen Brunson struggled for most of the entire game. He went to the free throw line 9 times. He was 6 of 12 from the field. But whenever the matchup, when he was guarded, other than the man Thompson, he pretty much was just eating everybody up. Like, Jeremy Sokan, with Jeremy Sokan and also Jose Alvarado off the bench. He had 8 points. He pretty much was a difference maker to help the Knicks out in the fourth quarter. Lots of turnovers that he forced on the Houston Rockets guards, including with Reed Shepard and Amen Thompson, and also getting in the passing lanes for Jabari Smith and Kevin Durant, making it more difficult on him. So shout out to Jose Alvaro. He really came through and really stepped in. Big Landry Shaman off the bench at 14 points. He was 5 for 7 from the field. And OG Anunoby and Cat were pretty much difference makers in the second half for the New York Knicks. But the way that they came out defensively early on in the first quarter, when they was up like 15-9, they forced like 6 turnovers. They got like 4 blocks in that game and was attacking in transition from OG Anunoby getting a couple of dunks in, Mitchell Robinson and Anthony Towns attacking the paint. That's what really put them over the top and really put them over the top and move them forward. So I like what they did, and they had a balanced attack. In the Knicks case, they had a well-balanced attack in that second half. Defensively, they got turnovers, they got key stops in the second half, but mainly in the fourth quarter. And I like the fact of what they did, balancing it out. But from one of these plays right here, as you can see, OG Anunoby was in Jabari Smith, and then also Mitchell Robinson coming into play. Those were just some nips and plays and nip and tucks and highlights in the game that really moved the needle forward. Now, that moved the needle for them. Now, to show you some more highlights. The thing is, Mitchell Robinson getting in Kevin Durant's airspace, making it more difficult on him as he was going to the basket. Because in the first quarter, he was like 1 of 5 from the field. But towards the end of the second quarter, he was pretty much on point. He pretty much had it intact. And in the game also, Cat defensively got a couple of blocks in the game as well. For the Houston Rockets, I'll get to them in a minute, but with the Knicks, they just found ways defensively to get stops, key stops. They found ways to get turnovers, and they found ways to manipulate the paint presence in the interior. And it's also the story is for the Knicks is Jalen Brunson right here. He pretty much in the fourth quarter went on an absolute heater. He scored 12 of his 20 points in the fourth quarter. He was on an absolute heater throughout the entirety of that quarter. His ability as far as manipulating defenses, reading the eyes, finding open guys like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges for a couple of lane in the corner threes, and also Jose Alvarado. He coming in defensively, being an absolute pest out there, really taking control of the outcome of the game. He really did his thing. Then there was a lot of times where Cat wasn't really being as aggressive, and that would be the main thing. That would be the main problem is certain times you would expect games where Cat would be going in and attacking, getting to the basket, and he did that in this game really, really well. The problem was on Thursday's game against the Pistons, which I didn't talk about, but I'll talk about the Pistons later on, in this coverage of what they did. What they did defensively was they figured out a way to get Cat off his drive and got him, taking him out of the paint, taking him out of the perimeter, and making him shoot a lot of, long 3-pointers. something that he is comfortable with at first. But he wasn't doing this. He wasn't attacking the basket against the Pistons like he did last night's game, which really is the thing that people was talking about. Could he really do, and could he really put the battery in the back of his star player, and could he put the battery in his own back to really be having that aggressive mindset, having that killer instinct and that mindset. So that would be the main thing I would say was a big factor, and why he was so effective last night, along with Brunson and OG Anunoby and the rest of the starting five. But for the Houston Rockets, this was their main problem all season long. This was their main problem all season long for the Houston Rockets. They do not run plays offensively that benefits them at all whatsoever. They don't run plays or run sets offensively that really helps them out. The problem is they do too much like this. They throw passes as far as them getting inside the paint. They just throw it out and try to kick it out for an open 3-pointer. Or they'll get it to out for Şengün or Kevin Durant. Like they gotta go in and get those kind of buckets on the inside and the outside perimeter. But I'm like, well, no, you got to do like what Reed Shepherd did last night. You got to find your way to get open. You got to find your way to move the ball and play off the ball and get into a rhythm. Because if you don't, it's going to be a big issue. And it was a big issue last night because they just didn't figure out a way to benefit themselves of getting open looks and getting key good looks. Their offense was so fixated and so pedaled upon trying to get Kevin Durant and Şengün going, but unfortunately, if one of them is not really getting on in the game and not flowing and not getting hot, then they're not going to really find a way to get it done. Now, Jabari Smith had a really good game. He had 18 points. In the first half, he only scored 3 points in the second half, so he only had a total of 21 points. Şengün had 16 points and 6 rebounds. That's not enough for your big man. You got to be in the 10, 12 rebound, 13, 14 rebound presence. You got to be able to dominate. Tari Eason had a good game, coming in, and Dorian Finney-Smith, you got to be a lot better. Reed Shepherd was able to get the foot in the gas and put the foot on the gas pedal, and was able to do his thing. But the problem is, with the Houston Rockets, they've been so inconsistent, and defensively, just allowing these kind of interior plays to happen. It's like you can't beat elite teams and your interior defense in the paint, and you're giving up so many points in the paint, which they think they gave over like 40 points in the paint or something like that, which is not an instance of, it's not a recipe for success. Yeah, the Houston Rockets they outscored the Knicks in the paint 50-48, but still, that's not always a recipe for success. You got to find ways in the perimeter to really do that. And yes, they did out-rebound the Knicks 44-29 because they've been one of the better defensive rebounding teams in the league, averaging 0.6 rebounds per game. But your three-point attempts, you were 12 for 31. The Knicks were dang near close to perfect from the free throw line, even though they didn't went to the free throw line as much. But the thing is, in the instances in the fourth quarter when they did, Jalen Brunson primarily was the main one to get in there. And so if you're the Houston Rockets, you can't allow deficits like this to slip away and happen. You got to find a way to give in some good effort, to bring in some effort, and really bring in some ways of level that attraction, level that connection on the end unity wise on the defensive side of the ball with Şengün and Durant. Durant being one of the main veteran president players, he has to be able to really bring his leadership and bring some sort of mentality over to these young guys to really say, hey, look, we got to be able to win games. We got to be able to win games and be able to win and get far in the playoffs and the postseason. Then we want to make a run to get to the championship. We got to find ways to really attack. We got to find ways to really make our presence known and felt known. Especially teaching the young guys like Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith that, because that kind of inexperience that they had, that it just wasn't enough, especially when the way that they lost to the Golden State Warriors, got swept, on their home turf. That's a problem. That's an absolute problem. You can't let things like that happen. As far as defensively, having mental lapses, leaving open lanes open for dunks, transition turnovers. Because I didn't even count the turnovers. Yeah, they had 19 total turnovers to the Knicks 11. That's terrible numbers. That's terrible turnover numbers, and it pretty much led to the Knicks uh, 30 points off of their 19 turnovers. That's a pitiful shame, man. You can't have that if you're a Houston Rockets team. You can't live to have them many turnovers and expect to win ball games like that. You got to find a way to take care of the ball. And I'm not saying that's just majority of why they lost, but that's one of the main key factors of why. Is because of the missed shots, the poor shot selection, the turnovers that really affected, that led to them their transition points, the importance of turnovers, and also defensively mental lapses in the paint, in the interior that really just kept them going. So that'd be the main thing for the Houston Rockets. They need to look at and work on. And Ime Udoka need to work on that with the team in the locker room. Really need to watch film a lot of the times, especially coming off of a 5-game road winning streak before this game. You need to look at that and really look at your roster and assess, like, what can I really do to improve my team and really make things better? Now, currently what's going on is the Cavaliers and the Thunder are playing right now. Uh, we'll get to that game later on, but I just want to talk about real quick the Pistons and the Bulls. The Detroit Pistons are absolutely tearing up the place. Much more. I will talk about them a lot more. But the thing is, with the Pistons, they're playing that old school fundamental basketball right now. They really is killing it. Besides what Cade Cunningham is doing, I really like the way that they added Duncan Robinson to this lineup as far as the 3-point arc and specialist as he is. Guys like Paul Reed and Jalen Duren, on the defensive side of the ball and rebounding effectively, and their just aggressiveness. Asar Thompson, his aggressiveness defensively, being a pest, controlling the pace of the game. Tobias Harris, his ability to really affect the game at a high level. It's just a thing that's so underrated. And off the bench, Ronald Holland had 9 points as well. He's just pretty much on point. But with the Chicago Bulls, they're going to do through a transition because they just traded Nikola Vucevic to the Celtics, so they're going through a different transition with that team. But the Pistons is really I wanted to talk about it. They've been pretty much the story of the season. They've been having such a phenomenal year all the way throughout. They have a really good lineup, really good coaching staff from Bickerstaff. They really are just trying to figure out ways to just get it done, win ball games, and really making a stamp and making a name for themselves. Especially going into the postseason, they're going to be a tough outing for anybody to look at, man. So I wouldn't want to take them anywhere near lightly at all. And moving forward, yeah, I'm going to definitely talk about them a lot more and cover their games, because they've probably been the most interesting team so far this year to really to pay attention to, because they got so many talents on all levels and all facets. I don't really hardly see a whole lot of weaknesses in them, man. The only thing about it is because of the experience and the way that they lost to the Knicks, I guarantee you that's pretty much in the back of their mind. And I think they're not gonna ever let that happen to them again, as far as losing in 6 like that. I know they're thinking about that in the back of their mind. So we'll see how things go for them. But really good win for them last night. They really was just tearing it up. Now the game that I covered last night, the Orlando Magic and the Phoenix Suns. Pretty much what happened was, of course, Jalen Green, last second 3-point attempt in the corner right towards the end was the difference in the game, which they won in overtime, 113-110. Looked like it was gonna go to double overtime, but that didn't work out the way that it worked out. So you got to give it to them, man. They really the Suns really was trying to get that win so badly. The Orlando Magic did everything they could, to try to keep themselves afloat, but Paolo Banchero just did not have a good night, along with the Tristan da Silva. And Anthony Black didn't really play as well as you would have thought. For the Phoenix Suns, their field goal percentage, I mean, both teams really played an ugly game. Both teams did not really play that well either at all. But the thing is, you had Grayson Allen, Jordan Goodwin, uh, also Iguodala, and Colin Gillespie. They really was on point off the bench. They really was doing their thing, and that's what pretty much put the Suns over the top. Both teams struggled from the 3-point line. Well, both teams were really atrocious from the 3-point line and from the field. The Suns out rebounded them, and again, let me see. But basically, the Magic outscored them in the paint. But the Phoenix Suns had 22 points off of the Magic's 16 turnovers, was really the difference in the game, and 11 steals. That's what pretty much led the difference in the game. The Magic had more blocks because they have a bigger size team, but the difference is the uh, the turnovers and the steals was pretty much helping Phoenix fuel them fire and fuel them upright and made them a really a difference maker throughout. So, but yeah, overall, a really good win for them. For the Phoenix Suns, you got to build off of this momentum because you didn't have Dylan Brooks. He left the game in the first quarter with a hand injury, and then of course, you didn't have Devin Booker. He was out with an ankle injury. So you didn't have your star. You didn't have your starting roster, your star talented players in the game. So that's what really put them in the difference. So moving forward, this is really going to help them boost a little bit of for them, as they're probably going to be in the play-in tournament and looking to still try to remain in that number 7 seed. But yeah, those are just my thoughts right now, man. And what do I think? What my thoughts on what I think about these games, man. Last night I'll do more coverage on the Celtics and Lakers and everything else later on, probably when I get home. Going to work pretty soon. But yeah, I just want to give you guys my thoughts moving forward for these games. But yeah, tell me what you guys think down in the comment section about what happened with the Rockets and the New York Knicks and the Magic and Suns and the Pistons and Bulls and the rest of the games.